He was nobody yet. Just a young man on a boardwalk, squinting into the sun, laughing like the world hadn't found him. Coney Island, 1994. 1 year later, everything changed forever. The guns that once shook the Pacific now sat cold and forgotten. Children climbed over them like jungle gyms, laughing where soldiers once trembled. Corregidor, 1949. The war was over, but the iron remained. Idi Amin thought he had Israel cornered 2,500 miles from home. Israeli commandos landed at Entebbe in the dark, neutralized the hijackers, and were wheels up again inside 90 minutes. 4 hostages died. The rest walked free. Amin never recovered his credibility. He was called the one-man Air Force by Eisenhower himself. Captain Don Gentile stood in front of his P-51 in 1945, having shot down more enemy aircraft than almost anyone in the European theater. The plane looked ordinary. The man inside it never was. They were called contraband, so the law would not demand them back. Union soldiers at Allen Farm, Virginia, 1862, standing beside men and women the Confederacy still legally owned. 1 year before emancipation, freedom existed in a loophole. Sometimes that is where it starts. Someone dug this out of French soil and it took a crane to move it. A femur bone, 140 million years old, weighing 500 kilograms, belonging to something that made the ground shake when it walked. The creature has no name, we gave it while it lived. Before the cameras found her, she was just a daughter helping her father work. June Wilkinson, 1954, years before fame had any idea she existed. The girl in this photograph had no reason to believe the world was about to learn her name. They dressed the same and stood the same and probably finished each other's sentences. Gertrude and Ursula Falk, Germany, 1906, teenagers in an empire that had less than a decade left before everything they knew would be shattered. The camera caught them before the world changed. Nobody told the river it could not be crossed with a locomotive. New Mexico, 1915, an entire steam engine suspended on cables above the Rio Grande, moving inch by inch toward the other side. Engineering in that era was mostly just stubbornness dressed in steel. Whatever she just said, it landed perfectly. 3 women, circa 1890, laughing like the Victorian era had no idea what to do with them. One fist raised, drinks in hand, completely unbothered. Some photographs refuse to stay in the past where you put them. They were watching the battlefield from the sky 60 years before airplanes existed. The Intrepid, inflated with hydrogen and carrying Union observers high above the Civil War, gave commanders something no army had ever had before. Thaddeus Lowe called it the future. He was right. It took years to build and one night to destroy. The Crystal Palace at Sydenham stood as a monument to Victorian ambition, iron and glass stretched across South London skyline since 1854. In November 1936 the fire came and by morning there was nothing left to save. He carried a sword to a battle where the enemy had artillery. A Chinese soldier of the 29th Corps, 1933, walking toward the Great Wall with a blade that belonged to another century. The wall was ancient. The courage it took to stand there was not. He was supposed to be defending the plane. Instead the gunner grabbed his camera. A ferry battle crew over occupied Europe, Wehrmacht soldiers scattering below after a strafing run, captured in the same breath as the attack. War and photography share the same instinct. They built their lives on these boats. Royal Canadian Navy officers took them in 1941 and sent the fishermen to internment camps while the government auctioned their property to the public. Canada apologized decades later. The boats were long gone by then. The ship was at anchor. The war found it anyway. A Japanese P-1Y Jinga crashed into USS Randolph at Ulithi Lagoon on March 11, 1945, leaving this helldiver as wreckage on a shattered flight deck. No harbor in that war was ever truly safe. The war had been over for 6 weeks. Fred Hutig stood in St. Nazaire on Christmas Day 1918, still in uniform, still waiting to go home. He was 21 years old. Someone thought to take the photograph. Someone kept it for over a century. They had to hold perfectly still while history moved around them. Paris Commune fighters behind their barricade, April 1871, blurred by time into ghosts before they even died. The camera needed seconds to capture them. The army needed less than that to end them. They were unarmed and they were running. South African police fired 1344 rounds into the crowd at Sharpeville on March 21, 1960. 69 people died. Most were shot in the back. The government called it self-defense. The bullet wounds told a different story. She was told to look serious for the camera and almost managed it. Lady Mary Harriet Goldsmith Howell, 1870s, handkerchief pressed to her lips, eyes giving everything away. Whatever she was thinking in that moment survived the century. The smile won anyway.